Imperial Guard versus the real world militaries is not close. Okay, no intro as always, I'll just get into it. Today I'll be comparing how would Imperial Guard fare up against real life militaries. We got a lot to cover, so I'll just get into it. To be precise, we shall be covering the matchup between the 88th Krieg Siege Regiment and the US military. Before we start, we gotta address something regarding Games Workshop numbers. If we wanna actually follow the numbers as they are stated in the lore, then the 88th Siege Army would only consist of roughly 200 to 250,000 men, with all its branches like artillery, armor and death riders included. This would mean that just the US Army branch would single-handedly outnumber them 2 to 1, not counting any allied branches like the Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force or even the National Guard. If we stick by Games Workshop numbers, that corps are gonna get wiped in the matter of weeks, if not sooner, so instead we shall be putting them at parity or slightly above that of US military. With that said, let's start off by covering strategies, tactics, logistics and equipment that each of them are gonna bring into battle, starting us off with the Imperial Guard, aka Krieg. Krieg's grand strategy is quite simple, because it's basically just World War I doctrine with some sprinkles of World War II put in here and there. It goes as such: first dig in order to provide yourself a modicum of safety against artillery and rifle fire. Once that's done, bring in massive quantities of artillery guns behind your third or fourth trench line so that they can be used to either stop enemy attacks or attrition out enemies through bombardments that can last for days at a time without stopping once. Once the enemies have been successfully attrition/softened, you bring up your mechanized and armored formations to make a breakthrough and hope that they can capture a couple of towns and villages before you have to do the entire thing all over again. In cases where the enemy is entrenched in a highly defensible position where artillery is pointless and frontal assaults would be, even by Krieg standards, hopelessly suicidal, Kriegsmen like to employ the strategy of their long-lost forefathers, the Hamas and Viet Cong, which is the strategy of just digging under the defenses and showing up on the other side. When it comes to their logistics, they rely heavily on rail transportation, using colossal locomotive engines that deliver supplies to railway station supply yards, and after that they are presumably carried to the front via the trucks or Death Riders' horses. Now let's cover their equipment, starting off with each individual soldier's kit. It consists of heavy trench coat and sturdy boots to keep the soldiers dry and prevent them from catching fevers and trench foots. They are also sealed as to, with the combination of the gas mask, allow soldiers to survive poisonous gas attacks. Moving up to their primary weapon, which is a Lucius pattern lasgun, known to break concrete with a single shot. However, it does have a drawback of only being semi-automatic. Unfortunately for Kriegsmen, they don't have the privilege of suppressive fire, they just gotta take their time and make each of their shots count. They also have a couple of grenades and that's it, that's their loadout, excluding their backpack carry equipment like cooking pots and sleeping bags. When it comes to their armor, there are many variants, but for the sake of time we shall just be focusing on the main ones, those being Lehman Russ, who I made a video about that you should definitely go check out, and whilst you edit you should also click the subscribe button. Okay, I'll stop shilling. Where were we again? Oh yeah, the Lehman Russ, Baneblade and Chimera. Starting off with the Lehman Russ, in short, it's a medium tank of 60 tons with riveted armor, somehow powered by, I shit you not, a World War II Tiger engine. It has multitude of side weapons, but usually heavy bolters, comparable to IRL 25mm guns. Its primary weapon, however, is a 120mm smoothbore cannon, which is a bit of an issue, and to understand why, you gotta understand the difference between the rifled and the smoothbore cannons. Rifled barrels give you greater accuracy because they spin the projectile, making it far more stable and less prone to tumbling. Smoothbore guns push the projectile at much higher velocity out of the barrel, but make the round far more prone to tumbling and not doing any damage. In saying this, most militaries nowadays use smoothbore guns on their tanks, but that's only because of the improved munitions called APF-SDS alongside computer assists that calculate the temperature, wear and tear alongside curvature of the barrel as to provide the gunner with the accurate measurements. Without these instruments and APF-SDS shells, using a smoothbore gun would be borderline pointless due to its many drawbacks. And now be real with me, do you think that Lehman Russ has a computer guidance systems? For this scenario we shall say that it does, but that's being extremely extremely generous. It's also stated in the army book that it carries 40 shells for the main gun, alongside various other munitions stored elsewhere in the tank. I'll tell you right now, that's complete and utter bullshit. There isn't enough space in that tank for 10 shells, let alone 40, but again, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, not like it's gonna matter anyway. When it comes to thermals and night vision, the standard Lehman Russ has no thermals and night visions. When it comes to visibility, it's goddamn awful. Presumably, the only thing that Lehman Russ commander has at his disposal to see the outside world is what I presume to be a narrow commander's periscope that doesn't even have that great of an outlook due to the height of the tank. And unless Mechanica somehow managed to invent some potion of invisibility, it appears that there are no cameras on the vehicle, limiting the crew's visibility even further. Yeah, that's it for the Russ. On to the big boys, the Baneblades. I'll keep it brief, this script is turning out to be a long one. In short, Baneblade is by far the rarest vehicle on this list, with the 88 probably only having a dozen or so. It's structured more like a ship and less like an actual tank. It has near invincible armor, its only danger being strikes from above from let's say 155mm shells. For obvious reasons, tanks have weaker armor on the sides and the roof because they're not supposed to be targeted in those areas. Its largest downside is its weight. This thing would certainly not be able to cross any bridges nor be put on any pre-existing railroads. It would also permanently destroy any road it's moved across, limiting the ability of friendly formations to use those roads again, at least without any extensive repairs. Last one for the army is the Chimera, which is an APC which can pack some punch. Best comparison for it would probably be 105 Striker if it could also carry infantry. It's probably the most useful of the three, but it has the same problem of no thermal nor any night vision. Moving up to the Death Corps artillery pieces, there are way more than I have time to cover. If you're interested in all the variants, go watch the Invictus video on that topic, link in the description. In short, most of their artillery pieces are of larger caliber than those of the RRO militaries, in saying that they lack any precision or GPS guided munitions, preferring to simply oversaturate an area until there is nothing left. Even though most of their artillery pieces are towed, there are some SPAs like the Basilisk, but of course in much smaller numbers. One more thing to mention is that even though Kriegsmen have radios, or I guess Voxes, they are usually short range, susceptible to jamming and few in number, so they often rely on runners or line cables. When it comes to Air Force, Krieg shall have the exact number of Valkyries that the US military has planes, but it won't have the support of the spaceships because that would just be overpowered. They could just throw an asteroid at Earth and wipe out half the human race in seconds. One last thing to mention is that I will not be calculating number of shells and supplies that each faction has, because 40k Krieg just doesn't have those numbers, and I don't have 7 hours to spare pissing off some US servicemen on War Thunder forums enough to just give me the classified documents of the exact number of shells that US military has. Okay, finally, let's get into the US military. Standard US soldier has M4 as his primary weapon, and specialists have anti-tank weapons like javelins or laws, AA weapons like stingers, and each US squad also has a machine gun. Even though US weapons are less deadly than the Kriegsman weapons, they will still kill Kriegsmen just fine. Also, every infantry AT weapon could easily destroy Lehman Russes or Chimeras. Even though javelins could probably not destroy, they can definitely damage Baneblades by striking them from the above. Each US serviceman is also equipped with thermals and night vision. We own the night is a US Army's motto after all. When it comes to US Army's armor, again there are many different types, but let's stick with the primary ones of the Bradley and the Abrams. All around they are significantly better than Imperial vehicles. They have night vision, thermals, computer assisted guidance systems, cameras for situational awareness, better ammunition types, better composite armor, etc. I know that I'm rowing through this, but trust me, it just doesn't matter how good they are. US relies on exactly one branch to win wars, and it's not the army. One more thing to cover about the army is that its artillery is mostly self-propelled and can fire precision-guided munitions. Okay, let's cover the elephant in the room, the war winners, the chair force. It does not matter how many aircraft you give to the Krieg, none of them are avoiding radar due to them not being stealthy. all the while they can't do shit to the US air fleet due to F-35s having smaller radar signature than a fly. Also, US has plenty of HARM missiles that target specifically radar tracking equipment, so Guard can't even utilize their anti-air assets, otherwise they're gonna get clapped in 5 minutes. Once Guard loses its anti-air assets alongside its air force, US can simply destroy their supply lines and infrastructure and conduct night assaults because, as the saying goes, we own the night. And they literally can't get ambushed or surprised due to surveillance from the UAVs and drones. And if you think Krieg artillery can do anything, I'm sorry to inform you, but USA has the technology to calculate where an artillery shell came from so that they can either bomb it or lob counter-artillery at it. If you think Krieg missiles can do anything, I'm yet again sorry to inform you that Patriot and Phalanx exist. And this is all without mentioning the Navy or equally to deathcore suicidal Marines. There's also Coast Guard, I guess, but who cares about them? In short, the matchup between the Imperial Guard and the IRL militaries is not close. Guard gets wiped. Guard are cool, but the technological disparity is just too great for them to have any shot of winning. I also haven't mentioned this, but Krieg being able to do combined arms warfare is an exception, not the rule, so most other regiments would fare way worse. Anyway, if you like this video, smash like, subscribe and hit the bell icon, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Till the next time, goodbye.